And joining us on the line right now is legal analyst, a good friend of this program, Joe DiGenova, also former U.S. Attorney to the District of Columbia. Joe, good morning to you.
Good morning, guys.
All right, so the Hillary email thing, I'm looking at this story in the Washington Post today. You know, they have this thing where they do fact-checking.
Yes.
See whether or not people are telling the truth about things they have said publicly, and they decided that they were going to look at the statements Hillary Clinton made about the email scandal, and they find a lot of problem in the article that well, this isn't true and that's not accurate, and you know the validity of that particular statement is debatable, but they don't come out. They say, well, we're just not ready to issue our Pinocchios yet. So as you look at what you've seen from Hillary Clinton, do you think that there should be 1, 2, 3, 4 Pinocchios here?
This is a 4+ Pinocchio, no doubt about it. I mean, let's face it. Remember what we've said all along. This system was purposely designed to thwart Freedom of Information Act requests and to thwart responses in federal courts in litigation. Her biggest problem right now is that nothing she said at that news conference is 100% correct, and much of it is false. When she said, for example, she didn't email classified information, she never said that she didn't receive classified information. That's the kind of parsing that the Clintons are very, very good at. But unfortunately, she's not in a position to parse anymore. And it's really fascinating. Her biggest problem the other day on Thursday, as I was telling you guys was going to happen, Judicial Watch filed a motion to reopen a case against Uma Abedin, where they had tried to get documents from the State Department, and they filed to reopen based on fraud and misrepresentation by the State Department and Ms. Abedin and Hillary Clinton and people around her. This is going to happen in about 25 cases, and Hillary's going to have to submit sworn affidavits, not news conferences, sworn affidavits, and some federal judges may even call her in to testify in person under oath.
Yeah.
So, you know, the only Pinocchio that's available now is the biggest one we can find.
Let me ask you a sort of follow-up on that. There is some reporting out there. It started in the New York Post. Ed Klein, okay, take it with a grain of salt. He says, look, you know where all this Hillary problem is coming from? It's coming from Valerie Jarrett over at the White House. And then the New York Post, that comes from the New York Post. The Washington Times then follows up and contacts the State Department and says, are there really, as Mr. Klein has suggested, 6 investigations underway here at the State Department that were initiated by Valerie Jarrett? And they said, please check with the White House about that. We have no comment whatsoever. So is it possible that Valerie Jarrett was the source of this email story that showed up first, interestingly enough, in the New York Times?
It's certainly possible. And actually the source of it is really almost irrelevant at this point. I mean, except for, you know, the prurient interest that we all have in the internecine warfare between the Clintons and the Obamas and the Obama team. The notion that there was any love between this team was such a phony baloney thing. This was a marriage of convenience. By the way, I'm talking about the one between Obama and Clinton, not Clinton and Clinton.
Yes.
This was a marriage of convenience politically, and there is no love lost, and it's going to get worse. And there are plenty of people in the Obama camp that would love to see her torpedoed and not succeed him as president. It's their worst nightmare that she would follow him.
Joe DiGenova, while I've got you here on this, I want to keep you on this email question because this is my first chance to talk to you since the press conference. I figured you were really enjoying that Tuesday afternoon
what a treat.
situation. James Carville is one of the few Democrats who are actually coming out to defend Hillary Clinton, and well, forget about defense. He's actually on the attack, as he often is.
Yeah.
Yesterday, he was on ABC's This Week with George Stephanopoulos there. By the way, George Stephanopoulos, a guy who also used to lie and defend President Clinton back when he worked in the White House.
Funny, really,
pretty amazing that he's the guy asking the questions here. Here's what he said. I found this to be fascinating because to me, this is a smoking gun. James Carville said, and I'm quoting him here, I suspect she didn't want Louis Gohmert rifling through her emails, which seems to me a kind of reasonable position for someone to take. Well, I don't want Louis Gohmert going through my emails either, except for the fact that he's a sitting U.S. representative with subpoena power if he's on a committee, and he has every right to go through her emails since she's the Secretary of State.
Well, yeah, that's absolutely correct. And the most fascinating thing about her news conference was the brazenness with which she announced unequivocally that she deleted tens of thousands of emails that she deemed personal. Question, are emails about donations to the Clinton Foundation personal because they don't deal with government business?
Right.
Answer,
Well.
yes. And guess what? I can't imagine that the FBI is not about to open a preliminary investigation of the Clinton Foundation donations because based on the public record and now her statements of deleting information that there is a prima facie case of bribery, of quid pro quo with foreign governments and large corporations during her tenure as Secretary of State. I am just waiting. I just don't know how long it's going to take the FBI director, James Comey, to finally stop saying no comment when asked about this.
Can I ask you about that really quickly, Joe, a quick follow-up? As a former U.S. attorney, does an FBI investigation like that require the Attorney General or the Department of Justice to trigger it? Or
No.
can Okay.
No, absolutely not. The FBI director was appointed as an independent person with a 10-year term so that he doesn't have to get anybody's permission to start what's called a preliminary investigation. And right now, there is more than enough evidence. If it were John Q. Public, believe me, there would be an investigation underway right now.
All right.
Just one more email question. I mean, do you find it interesting? I saw Trey Gowdy this weekend doing an interview on Fox News Sunday. We know that Hillary went to Libya, and there are actually pictures of her in Libya holding a BlackBerry, sending emails.
That was her Twitter icon for a while. Her avatar was her.
Yeah. And yet, Trey Gowdy says that in the emails that have been handed over thus far from Hillary Clinton, that the weeks leading up to the trip to Libya and the weeks leading after the trip to Libya, they received absolutely no emails. There's this huge gap. It's almost like, the Nixon gap in the tape. Well, there's a gap in the emails, apparently.
And remember, Hillary Clinton has announced publicly that it was she who deleted the emails. She who ordered it. There is just no way at this point that this does not become a criminal investigation unless the FBI is going to lay down and play fool. There's just no way at this point. She has actually admitted to destroying evidence. There's a congressional investigation. She is admitting denying access to those emails to a congressional committee. Gowdy's trying to be polite. He's trying to not look political. He's trying to look like he's not beating up on her. But deep down inside, believe me, he's an old prosecutor. He is seething.
One quick question here on this press conference. She said that she used her private email account, which was allowed at the time. When she says it was allowed, that means someone must have told her and given her permission. Who would that have been? She's the Secretary of State, and we know that the White House counsel says that they were unaware of it. So who?
It would have been her chief of staff, Cheryl Mills.
There you go. That's right.
And her deputy chief of staff, Uma Abedin, at the time. They would have told her she could do it. But here's the difference. See, this is the sleaziness of the Clintons. Of course she's allowed to have a private email account. What she wasn't allowed to do is conduct all government business on it and never store it and never send it to the State Department and never tell anybody about it.
Never archive it.
Yeah. This is absolutely outrageous. And with a straight face, she stands up there, like the frozen ice queen, and gives this news conference, which any political observer would tell you was one of the worst performances by a public official in history.
Yeah. All right, Joe DiGenova, we got to leave it there, but
I don't want to. It's so much fun.
It was well worth waiting for, Joe.
Hey, don't blame me. I didn't put a time limit on it.